There's going to be a delay. Okay. Huh? Oh. Mic check 1 2. Belt out a song for us, Adam.
Check 1 2, test 1 2.
She's very.
Check 1 2, test 1 2, check 1 2, test 1 2.
You can't hear it at all, or it's just
See, we'll get started in a couple minutes. Okay, first of all, if we could, call this meeting to order of the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority Board meeting, and would everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, I'd like to pass the mic over to the parish president to see if he'd like to say a few words.
Hey everybody, welcome to St. Charles Parish. We're honored to host a CPRA meeting today. If you were caught up by a train this morning, it was, I'm sorry about that. They had a little bit of an incident on a different parkway and a couple of the other intersections, but we got it cleared up. We're glad that you all are here and look forward to a productive meeting. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Mr. President, and also, as we move along, we have only one mic, so Debbie is gonna bring it to each member if they would like to speak. Maybe we can match up a few more mics next time. So we'll go ahead and move with one mic, and so first of all, I'd like the motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion by Tony Alford, second by Bill Hidalgo. All in favor? All opposed? Any opposed? Being none, and that motion passes. Being corrected, let's have a roll call.
Chairman Dove,
Present.
Mr. Davidson,
Present.
Mr. Bosworth,
Present.
Mr. Lane, Lieutenant Governor Nungesser,
Here.
Mr. Alford,
Here.
President Jewell,
Here.
former Congressman Dow, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Bourgeois,
Here.
Mr. Hidalgo,
Here.
Ms. Cormier, Mr. Cargill,
Here.
Mr. Lane,
Here.
Representative Lorraine,
Here.
Senator Hinskins. You have a floor.
Okay, with that, we have a forum, and we've had a motion to approve the agenda. We have a second. Is there any public comment on the agenda? Any public comment? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by Chad Corville, second by Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Do you see none? Any public comment to the minutes? Seeing none, old business announcements, any members would like to address the board on any old business? Seeing none, we'll move on. With that, the CPRA implementation update, Glenn Leday with CPRA, the executive director, is gonna give the presentation. Mr. Leday.
Thank you, Chairman Doug. Can you hear me? Thank you, Chairman Doug. As we get started today, excited to present a number of active projects in this region. Excited to be here in Luling. We'll go through this implementation update pretty quickly. We have a lot of good updates from the Corps of Engineers, the CPRA, the Constrained Levee District, and we'll feed on a number of active projects in this region. So really excited to be here. As we get started, in all of our implementation updates, we like to showcase the active projects that we have in the region. And so just to give you an idea, we have currently 107 active projects. If you remember in the FY25 annual plan, we will be working up towards 130 plus active projects. And so as we implement those, you'll see that number start to increase. We've got a number of projects that will be kicking off with the new funding from that FY25 annual plan. And so over the next 60 to 90 days, we'll start talking about some of those projects we'll be kicking off in engineering and design. But right now, we've got 107 active projects, 42 in construction, 60 in engineering design, and another 5 in planning. So always trying to put as much as we can on the ground and then continuously permit and engineer projects to get those to construction. So with that, I want to just take a snapshot every month before we get into the details of some projects and just give you a quick snapshot of some new updates on our engineering and design and construction projects. And so while we can't update you on all 107, we do take a handful and try to give you a quick update and then do a deep dive in some of those projects. So right now you see a variety of projects across the Southeast region. There on the screen, and then one in South Central Louisiana, and just wanted to give you a quick update on some changes on those projects. And so with that, we'll start on the construction side. And so we have 3 projects we want to update you on construction. The first is the LaRose flood wall, and that's a project that's being led by one of our partners, South Lafourche Levee District. I saw Nick's here today. We're happy to say that that project has been completed. And so we're excited to partner with them on that. Lowland Construction Company did the work. That was approximately $2.1 million of Statco Mesa that we partnered with South Lafourche on. And that project included vessel impact protection for the LaRose and Gilpetta GIWW flood wall. So excited to see that project get completed. The second thing is the Bayou La Lucha Ridge and Marsh Creation project. And that is actually a really exciting project. It's Ridge and Marsh Creation that was originally designed under CPRA, but we were able to get it to construction early with NERDA dollars. We were able to split the project up. The Marsh Creation component is being done by Mike Scoops as part of the large Lake Bourne Marsh Creation project, and the Ridge component is being done by U.S. Aqua Services as an independent project. Total cost is around $35.4 million. But it's exciting. We're going to start that process with CPRA and then continue it with NERDA dollars for implementation. So really good to see that. That's both in construction right now with both of those projects. Both of those projects being able to construct those independent features of this overall project. And then finally on the construction side is the Mid-Breton Land Bridge Marsh Creation and Terracing project. That is a CPRA project in Breton Sound around Lost Lake and Grand Lake. That project is actually a CPRA project that's also part of a larger program for the East Breton Land Bridge project. That's a big master plan component. And it's also part of a larger system that St. Bernard is leading that Mr. Lane and his team are working on. So as you know, we talk a lot about this now that we're able to build a lot of these projects that we've been planning and envisioning and engineering for a long time. You can see the synergy of all these projects work together, and that's a good example. And so we'll be working on Marsh Creation Area 1 right now. Coastal Dredging Company is the company that's doing that work. It began in July, and then working with St. Bernard in the future to continue to build that land bridge. So excited to see that effort progress. In addition to that, we've got a couple of engineering and design updates. The first is the Bayou Cane Marsh Creation project in St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana. That is also a CPRA project that provides over 380 acres of marsh creation in that critical area of emergent marsh that was lost over several hurricanes on the North Shore around Goose Point and Bayou Bonfuca. And so that, again, works in synergy with a couple of other CPRA projects. In addition to that, it's working in synergy with a project that we partnered with St. Tammany Parish on the Goose Point Living Shoreline effort. So a lot of synergy there on a variety of local and state projects. But we have recently received a construction permit. We anticipate advertising for bid in May of 2025. And then that estimated cost is $31.6 million. So we'll update you when we go to construction on that effort. And then finally, on the engineering design updates, we've got Chenier Teague Shoreline Protection Project. That's a project that we are providing funding to Vermilion Parish to provide shoreline protection and some gaps in that Chenier Teague area. We just finished data collection, so wanted to update you on that recent completion, and then initiating the design and the permitting effort. And that's a fairly small project, 2.2 million, but it's important. And so we're accelerating that because of some land loss on the shoreline of that area, and hope to do that in the next 6 months. So with that, that's just a snapshot of some of these engineering, design, and construction projects that wanted to update the board on today. And then with that, we'll dive into a restoration update of some of the critical projects, one of which is right here in St. Charles Parish, and happy to update you on this. This is the LaBranch Marsh Creation Project. And so if you drove from Baton Rouge, you saw this project right there off of Interstate 10. This is one of the largest continuous tracts of wetlands along that south shore of Lake Pontchartrain. And so this is a project that we talked a little bit about over the last several months, but now in construction. Again, this is a program that looks at really synergy of a number of projects. And so first is it is adjacent to the first Quipper project ever constructed, the original LaBranch PO 17 project. But it's actually behind a number of shoreline protection projects that were constructed originally by CF, and now the state is leading through state surplus dollars. And so you see there, you've got the original shoreline protection projects, east and west LaBranch. You have the original LaBranch shoreline protection project, and now the second phase of that, PO 194, LaBranch shoreline protection that we're building. And then behind it is the large marsh creation project that we're talking about that is funded through CPRA, that's being led by NRCS. It's really a massive project for the CPRA program. It was actually two projects combined into one. That is progressing very well. The containment dikes are completed, and now those cells that you see there are being pumped. And so when you drive across I-10 in that area, you see that dredge sitting out in the lake, and they're pumping those cells. And so we'll continue to update on that, but everything's going really well. And this is just a large regional project or set of projects that continue to show synergy and the ability to build on all these different sources of funding. We had a big event that was out there this year as that project got kicked off. So really exciting. This shows you the three big marsh creation cells that are part of this project, and then the borrow area in Lake Pontchartrain. And so those three cells will be pumped, and the containment was completed. And this is a video showing some of that construction. And so I'll let this play, but you can see as the perimeter of that area built by those containment dikes, and then the pumping that's going on inside those cells. So that you can see there that as that pumping is going on, of course, those cells are constantly being dewatered and continuously filled. And so this is some of that early footage of that construction. So moving on, that was our restoration update for today. The other thing is, always want to update you on the progression of our hurricane protection and flood risk reduction systems. And so with that, one of the projects we want to highlight today is the St. Tammany Parish Flood Risk Reduction Project. Of course, this is something we've been talking about for a long time. This is the culmination of 4 years of hard work by a number of parties. This is really comprehensive flood risk reduction for the entire parish of St. Tammany. And so this is a feasibility study that was initiated by the Corps of Engineers 4 years ago. We have a bunch of hard work by the Corps of Engineers, CPRA, our partners, St. Tammany Parish and St. Tammany Levy District, who are here today to get to the end of this really critical feasibility study. And so I'm happy to update the board today that that feasibility study is complete. The Corps of Engineers pushed hard and got a fully signed chief's report and selected plan for this effort, and in May of this year. And so with that, we're able to work with our congressional delegation and get that into this next WRDA bill for WRDA 2024, so that it will become a federally authorized project, and then we would proceed with implementation of that. As you can see here, this project really includes two major components. The first is the structural protection, which is the 18.5-mile levee and flood wall system in South Slidell and West Slidell. That's the green line there. That is part of that system. In addition to that, it does include the non-structural components, which are home elevations and residential floodproofing. And so as you can see, it provides actually protection and flood risk reduction for residents not only in the coastal zone, but across the entire parish. And so it's really phenomenal to see this feasibility study be completed and fully signed. The total amount of money for the entire program is roughly $5.9 billion for both structural and non-structural. Just so you know, this is the largest program that's currently in the draft versions of the WRDA bill in the entire nation. So it's really massive. Excited to see that right here in South Louisiana. And excited to hopefully see that WRDA bill get signed here in the coming months. With that, it does include components of structural and non-structural. As I mentioned, you can see there on the non-structural side, we've got home elevations of approximately 5,583 structures, dry floodproofing of over 827 non-residential structures. And then on the structural side, you've got that earthen levee system, flood walls, pump stations, sluice gates, etc. Everything that goes into that. And so, you know, as you generally know, this is really the feasibility level analysis for the plan. And so, once this is signed in a WRDA bill, then it would become federally authorized, and we would be working on the actual engineering and design with the Corps of Engineers and St. Tammany Parish and St. Tammany Levy District, and working on all the details of all these features. But really great to see this culminate. Really, you know, want to thank Colonel Jones and his staff for all their hard work, and then the hard work of St. Tammany Parish, President Cooper, and Suzanne Krieger at the St. Tammany Levy District to get this to an end, and all the residents there that worked with us through this program. So really just another exciting update on the hurricane protection and flood risk reduction side in coastal Louisiana. We did provide an update on Grand Isle last month, but just wanted to showcase some video footage of that project that's been underway. This is obviously the project that the Corps of Engineers is leading. Trying to play that, Marine. I don't know if you can figure that out, but we did take some good footage, so we wanted to showcase that. As if you remember, Callahan Marine is doing the dredging work with the Corps of Engineers on this really important project, and so just want to play that for the board and showcase some of this footage on the beach and dune restoration. So as you can see there, really good footage. Wanted to showcase that to the board. We provided that update last month, but thanks to the Corps and their hard work to get that project underway. So we'll continue to update that as that's completed. A few additional updates before we close out today on some ongoing activities at CPRA. The first is, you know, we're engaged in a number of public meetings every month, and so want to update the board on those. And so you can see September will be a busy month for public meetings. We'll be working with the Corps of Engineers on another important and critical feasibility study. That's the Tangipahoa Parish flood risk reduction efforts. We've got public meetings that the Corps is hosting upcoming on August 27th and 28th. And so we'll be in attendance there to support them as the non-federal sponsor. But just another critical project that they are leading the study on, and we'll be updating the board as that study progresses. In addition, obviously, a lot of this, you hear everything we talk about is, what originated a lot of this work is CPRA. And so we have our technical committee meeting that's going to be coming up on September 5th. This is critical to envisioning this next round of projects, looking at all the candidate projects and having those important committee meetings to evaluate those and how we progress to this next priority list. So that will be September 5th in New Orleans at the Tulane River and Coastal Center. And then we are also, CPRA and DOT are part of the non-voting members for technical support for the Amite River Basin Commission. We've got a regular board meeting that we attend. Brian Lazina with our staff attends that as a designee for CPRA. That upcoming public meeting is September 10th. And one of the important things here to recognize is they will be doing their first master plan. So both CPRA and DOT will be supporting them in that effort. And so you'll see some upcoming public meetings beyond their regular scheduled monthly meeting on that effort. And then in addition to that, we have a lot of grant activity this month. And so wanted to highlight a few things. The first are 2 grants for CPRA. The first is from the Restore Council, and that is on SWAMP, the System-Wide Assessment and Monitoring Program. That's implementation of this phase of this next effort of SWAMP. And so this is a program where we collect and analyze a lot of data, particularly on the geological and sediment side, trying to figure out, where borrow is, how much we need to build some of these large-scale projects, and a variety of other things like water quality. And so we've got a $25.5 million Restore Council grant on that program to continue that. That's critical to maintaining our Louisiana sediment database. And so excited to see that come through. And then we've got one of our first large grants for the Chandelier Island Restoration Project that we updated the board on last month. That is from NOAA, from their Transformational Habitat Restoration and Coastal Resiliency Grants. That's critical to kicking that off. Of course, that's a large project, and so we'll be continuing that push for funding. But really just excited to see that the first wave of funding come through on that effort. Just a big thanks to NOAA and to the Restore Council for those two grants to CPRA. In addition, in the coastal area of Louisiana, there was a grant awarded by NOAA to the Nature Conservancy. This is the Gulf Corps Resiliency Collaboration in Louisiana. That's a good grant to provide the working force in Louisiana for the next wave of people that are interested in the coastal industry. The Nature Conservancy received that from NOAA, and that's $2.4 million. So really good, over $37 million of grants in Louisiana for coastal efforts. And then, of course, we attend a number of events. Our outreach and engagement team tabled an event at the WYES Coastal Expo this weekend. There were challenges and opportunities there with the title of the program is Challenges and Opportunities Louisiana Coast, an ongoing series. So that was really good in New Orleans. A number of other coastal entities and non-governmental organizations attended and promoted coastal restoration in Louisiana. So really excited. The outreach and engagement team did a great job showcasing CPRA and the good work that we do. And then I wanted to highlight another event we attended just yesterday. This was a tour of the Western Closure Complex. And so I know a lot of you know in this area, this is the largest pump station in the world. And it's attached to one of the largest sector gates in the Western Hemisphere. Sluffa West guided us in that tour. So very appreciative of that. Senator Cassidy and his staff were down, as well as the parish presidents of coastal Louisiana, supported by Meg Bankston. And so that was a really great event, and Chairman Dove and I were able to attend with staff from CPRA and our operations division. So really good to attend that and showcase the critical flood risk reduction and hurricane protection infrastructure that exists in coastal Louisiana. And of course, this is paramount. This is one of these largest structures. So You can see photos there from that event that took place just yesterday. And so finally, the last update is I know a number of you joined us last month, or a few weeks ago, sorry, on the HNC Lock Complex groundbreaking. This was the groundbreaking on this historic home and navigation canal lock complex as part of the Markansas to the Gulf. With that, I'll ask Mr. Alfred and Chairman Duff to say a few words about that historic event.
Well, it's a great opportunity. It was a long time in coming. And, I would say this, a lot of times, we don't give credit to the oil companies, or of course, Restore Act money is building this whole project. And of course, we know how that took place. And look, I'm not here to advertise for the oil companies, but Shell Oil donated 4,000 acres to Terrebonne Parish in addition. And a lot of times I don't think they advertised as much as they actually did. And we never thought we'd live long enough to see this project built. And I gotta be careful how I say that, because we have not lived long enough to see this project built yet. It's still 4 years off in construction, but what a great opportunity to put together the linchpin of this entire system, to stop the salt water from coming in and keep the fresh water in the system. And we're real excited about it, and long time in coming. But thanks to BP, Restore Act dollars.
Yeah, and what a great event, and, this lock system is 800 foot long, 110 foot between the wing walls, 23 feet, elevation at the south end of it, on the unprotected side, and, 10 feet on the interior, and it's gonna be operated by the Corps of Engineers. That's a good thing. And it was a long time coming. A lot of people in this room were instrumental in getting it, and I want to thank everyone. And it's the total project's about 450 million. This portion of it's 316 million, and it's a 20-foot navigable, which is a -24, because we are trying to deepen the Homer Navigation Canal, but to bring in deeper vessels as offshore extends in deeper waters, the vessels get deeper drafts. So we had prepared for that. Now the existing gate, the Bubba Dub, will remain in place, so that gives us a 250-foot opening if there's a larger structure that needs to pass, a larger vessel, that needs to pass, versus the 110 foot between the wing walls. And with that, I want to thank everyone. And then the governor came out. I want to thank Governor Jeff Landry for coming out, and we had a packed house, and great day with Mr. Bourgeois, Jerome. What did you say?
No, it was a good day. Like you said, this is a linchpin of a big system. The system protects, some 250,000 people. So it was a really good day, and I think everybody realizes all of the folks that had to come together to make this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Dove. I think Marina has a video that she wanted to play to showcase that event as well.
I committed to the people of this area, and the people of Cameron, all the way down to St. Bernard, that we are finally going to start turning some dirt. While this project protects the communities north of it, it also keeps the economic viability of the region sound. So when it's completed in about 3 years, you will come and go through Terrebonne Parish with lobsters, no matter what the weather's doing, and no matter what the tides are, and you will not bring salt water into Terrebonne Parish. And these are people that care. as much about their community and their country and their coast as I've ever seen. They're absolutely committed to seeing these kinds of projects put in place.
Yeah, a really phenomenal event and excited to be part of that. And of course, there are a lot more to come. We've got presentations today by, of course, Colonel Jones, and then a lot of our partners at levy districts and towns and parishes in this region. So excited to see these updates come. But as always, feel free to connect with us on our website and social media. And happy to present this implementation update to the board, and happy to answer any questions.
Any question, members?
Hey, Executive Director Lede, Tyler Bosworth, Chief of Staff, Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. When we're talking about new projects and implementing new projects that are funded in this iteration of the annual plan, I want to thank you and your team for a good meeting last Friday with the Secretary and members of our executive staff to discuss department priorities and the governor's priorities with White Lake property and Marsh Island. Happy to see about $5.5 million funded in this current iteration of that plan. Looking forward to working with you and your team and CPRA to get moving on some of those projects. So again, I just wanted to thank you and your team on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bosworth. Yeah, we had a great meeting, and happy to kick those two projects off. As you said, those were funded in this FY25 plan. So we'll be making progress on those and updating the board. But yeah, thank you. That's a great two projects.
Tyler, Glenn, could you please give us an update on Mid-Barataria, segment diversion, and primarily are there additional portions of the project apart from, I think right now we're working on access roads and containing. Is there other aspects of the project being considered?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Zoran. Yeah, we're trying to work on a number of early activities. Putting the site together, we had the really kind of all of the trailers and the access for the site, as you said, the access road. Looking at doing some pile testing and loads testing, as well as deep salt mixing for the levee system that would go there. That's all within the early works that are part of that modified stop work order for Plaquemines Parish.
And that is being implemented right now? Or being
Yes.
considered? Okay.
Yeah, those are, I guess, four of the key things that are being worked on right now.
Okay. And I guess to the chairman, I know you can't talk about the litigation aspect of it, but are we getting closer to working to resolve this aspect of it from a litigation perspective to move forward?
Well, what we're doing is, good? Yeah, well, right now, of course, legal is involved in it, and we've been meeting and talking with Plaquemines Parish, President Hinckley, and we're still working on it, and we should be releasing something here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish I could say more, but, we have confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements, and, but we all making headway with it, and we'll have an announcement here forthcoming.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give the diversion a break. I want to ask you a question, and I haven't seen other than St. Tammany now, we're working on a project to build berms in front of the state park to protect those cabins that get wiped out after a hurricane. And one of the thoughts is doing some kind of berms to protect the North Shore. In this flood prediction, the plan that you put together, with the new levees coming, does any of the storm surge models show how far in that storm surge from the shore will project further than the past storms? Based on what was done in the past with that, the water's got to go somewhere with the new levees. Is there any projections of how far inland that's going to go to the North Shore? Because on some of the development plans, that surely needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Yeah, that plan does, all of these projects, of course, do extensive modeling on, with future without the project as well as with the project. So it does evaluate that. In this particular project for St. Tammany Parish, it showcases that And this system, as you know, is both home elevations as well as the levee system. So it showcases that. The Corps of Engineers does that as part of the feasibility study and the EIS. So it showcases that there, minimal impacts to anybody outside that system, and all of those are mitigated through that non-structural effort through home elevation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Glenn, and President Joel and I were just talking about this. This isn't really a CPRA issue. It's not really a core issue, but it's a combination issue having to do with flood insurance. And we see these non-structural things over and over again where they're intended to prevent flooding, and they work. Elevation will prevent flooding. So when you elevate the home, they will prevent flooding. What we're seeing in a lot of places is the elevation of those homes is not manifesting itself in a reduction in the cost of flood insurance, to the point where it is very difficult for a lot of people to get into these programs that elevate the homes. I'm going to mention it now, and Colonel Jones maybe can address it too. It would seem like, if anything, the Corps would have the opportunity to tell FEMA, because we've had no success in telling FEMA about the fact that elevating a home actually prevents flooding. So I just kind of think that it's something that's been lurking around in the background, and all of the good work that we're doing with CPRA in the non-structural world. This is coming from the structural world guy, up here, one of us anyway, and saying that we need some sort of relief. All of that effort that the communities will develop floodplain management standards based off of the flood insurance rate maps, which at least are processes that are trying to capture the true risks of flooding, is being negated by FEMA's risk rating 2.0 and not getting credit for elevating the homes, because that home's proximity to what they perceive as a flood source, some sort of water, which is ubiquitous in Louisiana, it's everywhere, is not correlating to the true actual risk of those things. So I just wanted to put it out there for everybody. I think it's something that we need to kind of press jointly back against FEMA on, that, what the Corps is doing, what the state's doing is gonna work. It's gonna stop the flooding in those homes, but we're not gonna get credit in the flood insurance world because of proximity to a perceived flood threat that's not a threat to a home that's been elevated. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And I might add to that, as most of you well know, Judge Papillon, a federal judge, did refuse the injunction that was put forth by the Attorney General. But he is letting the case move forward. So, they are moving forward with it, but they did not grant the injunction on a 2.0 on the flood insurance issue with FEMA.
Thank you, Chairman Doug, Mr. Bourgeois. Yeah, we certainly agree, and happy to support in any way that we can at CPRA. And just to finish, thank you, President Jewell, for hosting us today, and thank you to the board and the chairman for listening to the implementation update. With that, I'll turn it over to Colonel Jones.
Thank you very much for doing a great job as executive director, and Colonel Jones, Cullen Jones with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Good to have you with Mr. Durant.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Nungesser, Chairman Doug, members of the board, thank you again for another opportunity to come and update the board on all the great efforts that we're working alongside the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority and one of our other non-federal sponsors here in South Louisiana. Excited to give you a couple key updates on some elements as we are in mid-hurricane season 2024. So to start off with, once again, a great example of the phenomenal partnership that we have with both CPRA and the Pontchartrain Levee District. We are making great progress on the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain Hurricane Storm Damage Risk Reduction System. Of course, everybody here knows this is, of course, an 18.5 mile system, alignment of levees, floodgates, drainage structures, and flood walls, helping reduce risk for over 60,000 residents, a key evacuation route here in South Louisiana. And I am happy to report today, currently under construction, 14.5 miles of that 18.5 mile levee system. And every foot of elevation that we produce buys down risk for our fellow citizens. And though we're projected for completion of construction by 2027, as we continue to get those elevations in place, that's going to provide an opportunity for the state and the Pontchartrain Levee District to flood if we have extreme weather events in the future. Another great example of the partnership that we have with both the state and the Pontchartrain Levee District is as we continue to move out at risk to get this money to work so we can maintain the irreversible momentum on this project. A great example of that is we have advertised the last 1.1 miles of core constructed levee reach, section 109, working with CPRA. They are moving out to make sure they get the letters of no objection for pipeline relocations, and we will be able to have that authorization for entry in hand, so we are poised to award that contract by the end of the FY. Also, another example here is, Chairman Dub, I cannot thank you enough for the memorandum of agreement that enabled us to go through the relocations that helped us get both sections 104 and 106 awarded as well. So we've got the construction flood walls and levees options already awarded on those. Why is that important? The next steps, we're going to see the Marpaw River reintroduction project going through, completing that section, and at the same time, we're going to be completing the engineer documentation report on the St. James portion of the Western Lake Pontchartrain project, so we can work with them, given the efforts for them to reduce flood risk along the connector levee, and how we can tie into that system, reducing risk for them as well. So across the board, irreversible momentum, continue to move forward, and excited to get more contracts awarded in fiscal year 25 and the remaining contracts in fiscal year 26. So I'll pause there to see if there's any questions on West Shore Lake Pontchartrain. All right, seeing none. As we're at the height of hurricane season, and had a chance to talk with President Hinckley on a couple other items, but I want you to know that we continue to make great progress on ensuring the long-term repairs of the Wilkerson Canal pump station. As everybody here knows, this is a part of the replacement that occurred for the New Orleans to Venice project, primarily concerned with internal drainage, provides about 1,000 cubic feet per second of internal drainage capacity. In May of 2021, we identified some vibration issues, so we went through and started executing troubleshooting and long-term repairs. The good news is we maintain 50% capacity at all times at that location, 500 cubic feet per second, to ensure that we don't see flooding on Highway 23 in that location, in good coordination with Plaquemines Parish. And then we've been able to pull pumps 3 and 4. Pump 3 has passed its wet test. We're going to get a keel cooler on there. For those that are boaters, you know the keel cooler helps keep the coolant cool so they continue to run. And at the same time, we saw some additional issues with pump 4. We've been able to go through and execute a new contract, and then just today we verified that the Small Business Administration has approved the joint venture, so we can move forward with getting that contract awarded. If not by the end of the calendar year, we're going to try to see if we can get it in the FY. So the plan moving forward is we'll maintain that 50% capacity at this location. Once pumps 3 and 4 are back up to 100%, we'll then pull pumps 1 and 2, get those evac for repair, get them reinstalled, and the goal is to have the entire system turned over back to Plaquemines Parish by the end of 2025, if not sooner. But at the end of the day, we'll make sure that we maintain that pumping capacity so there's no flooding on Highway 23. And I'll pause there to see if there's any questions on the Wilkerson Canal pump stations. All right, moving on to one of our ongoing studies. You can see here the Lafitte area study, one of our most hardest hit communities. Checking the board here, you all know that that area has seen repeated hits from extreme weather events. And unfortunately, most of the developed areas within the study have mostly unlevied or inadequate levee systems. I know there's been great work done by the local parishes and CPRA to help reduce risk here. And now at the federal level, we have the opportunity to identify a recommended plan that's going to manage the flood-induced damages due to coastal storm surge and climate change. Going through, being able to leverage studies from the past, such as Donald Phil to the Gulf, that has enabled us to focus on non-structural solutions for this community, layering upon what CPRA and the local parish has done. So what does that mean? We're currently looking at evaluating alternatives for both non-structural solutions for both house elevations and dry flood proofing for residential and for public and commercial facilities. And at the same time, looking at other resiliency features such as the elevation of roadways and pump stations to support. As we move through and conduct our updated Generation 2 coastal risk modeling on that, where we're going to go through and provide those coastal storm forces onto the asset inventories, determine those life cycle costs. That's going to help validate those models as we move towards a tentatively selected plan by March of 2025. And we're going to be working in lockstep with CPRA and the local leadership as we move through that process to ensure that we align and dovetail into their efforts. So we're excited to continue with that process forward and buy risk down for that community. And I'll pause there to see if there's any questions on the Lafitte area site. All right, and the last update I have on the pre-construction engineering design of the Upper Barataria Basin Risk Reduction System. I'm excited on the progress that we've made here working alongside the levee districts and CPRA. As everybody knows, this is the last major levee system needed in southeast Louisiana to be able to connect ourselves from the Hisders to Morganus to the Gulf, providing that comprehensive coastal storm and risk management for those communities. Ultimately, a 30-mile levee system protecting over 7 parishes at the 1% level of risk reduction. This is also an example of one of our regional delivery efforts. We're actually bringing in additional engineering support from the St. Paul district to help support the pre-construction engineering design to ensure that we are able to deliver plans and specifications for the first contract for Reach G East. That's going to be within the March 26th timeline, but more importantly, as a part of that initial pre-construction engineering design, we are executing a basin-wide hydrologic model, which we're looking to have completed by the end of September this year. Why is that important? Having the great discussions with CPRA and the levee districts, talking about that's the last major stretch on the southeast side. How do we close the door between the Upper Barataria Risk Reduction System and the Morganus to the Gulf? And I can see the pen being moved there. Exactly. So approximately a 0.65 mile difference to be able to close that door. But with this hydrologic model in place, we have budget packages for us to actually go through and conduct an assessment to ensure that we can move forward to actually seek those benefits and close that gap as well as getting that comprehensive effect. And at this point, this conducts my quick update. I know that you're all pressed for time, but I'm excited to answer any questions.
Not a question, just a statement about closing the systems. I mean, with that, we could have a continuous line of protection from Gibson, Louisiana to New Orleans. And so that's a major thing, and I appreciate the Corps working towards helping us figure out how we connect those two systems together.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. And the other exciting aspect of this, once again, talking about the great partnership, we're going to have an execution workshop between the Corps, CPRA, and the levee districts in September. And one of the key aspects there, given the fact that we have a great memorandum of understanding for work in kind, we're going to see what we can provide to CPRA and levee districts to get to construction now while we continue our large-scale design efforts as St. Paul finishes Reach G East, so we can get more of that money to work, and we can also maintain active progress across that 30-mile front.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Colonel. And it's an honor and pleasure to work with you and the Corps. We really move a lot of things forward, and between CPRA and the levee boards and the parishes. And thank you for fielding everyone's calls and moving things forward and expediting things as quick as you can. And I want to thank you and Mr. Rand and the rest of your staff.
Well, Chairman Doug, once again, thank you very much for your great partnership in this process, and thank you very much for the opportunity to update the board today.
Take care of it. The next is the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain. What was it, do what? Wait, Colonel, you still have some slides to go there telling me?
Feasibility study.
I think those are the low line.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to talk to those if you want.
Okay, well, yeah, Inga said you still have a couple of slides on here, but you're finished. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll move to the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project. Monica Salins and, Andrew Beal.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Colonel. And ladies and gentlemen here in the audience, thank you so very much. I was asked by CPRA to join this morning regarding the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain. Very, very happy to do that. I was told that less is more, so I only have 2 slides, all right? And anybody who knows me knows it's usually go big or go home. So I'll give you a little bit of background. Pontchartrain Levee District is one of the oldest levee districts in the state, as well as probably one of the first regional levee districts. Pontchartrain Levee District is very proud to be a co-non-federal sponsor with the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority as the #1 civil works project in the state of Louisiana, the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain Hurricane Storm Damage Risk Reduction System. This project was authorized in 1971, and Pontchartrain Levee District has worked tirelessly with the state and many of us here in this room to get to a feasibility study that was approved in the end of 2014. We had a final chiefs report issued in June of 2015. And, like you mentioned earlier, I never thought that I would see a day that this project was ever funded. And by the grace of God, through the VBA 18 funding, we received the first $760 million towards this project, and has recently had some overall cost adjustments. And so the total of this 23-mile system, and I say 23-mile system, what you see on the map is, a half a mile of this is in St. Charles Parish, another 18 miles is in St. John the Baptist, but the other 4.5 miles is actually in St. James Parish, which has some levees and ring levees and non-structural components to it. So it's a total of 23-mile system, but what you see on that southwestern end, the last 3 reaches of that are what you'll hear about next, the river reintroduction into Marpaw Swamp. So a wonderful complement of projects working together, people working together, things like that. One of the many roles that Pontchartrain Levee District has had as one of the co-non-federal sponsors has been the acquisition of 1,400 acres of right-of-way for the project, namely easements, specifically roadway easements for all of those access roads, drainage ditch easements, levee flood protection easements, stockpiling materials, and staging areas, to name just a few of that. PLD and CPRA have issued authorization for entries for 13 of the construction contracts, and PLD has supported CPRA with over 20 pipeline operators to obtain approvals for project features to cross numerous pipeline corridors throughout this system itself. This is the St. James portion of the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project. It shows you the ring levees. We have, not only has the levee district worked with the parish, we've been working tirelessly with CPRA, who's been a huge proponent of the alternatives, in conjunction with the Army Corps of Engineers, who's been working very, very tirelessly for those alternative project measures for St. James Parish. Upon completion of this project, Pontchartrain Levee District will have the operation and maintenance in perpetuity of the system. We will work with the parishes for any assistance on any components that we would need, but in perpetuity is a big thing. And, kudos to St. Charles Parish and St. John the Baptist Parish. They have adopted a millage specific to flood protection. And there's a quote there, I think, from one of the articles from me, that there was a lot to be learned from this project and how it's a model for federal and non-federal partners working together, and an investment, in your parishes in Louisiana. But St. Charles and St. John have adopted a millage, a 30-year millage specific for flood protection. So they are vested. Their people are vested. They put their money, it does cost. Flood protection costs money. And I know people don't like to talk about taxes. They don't like to see things going up, but it's what we need. I just wanted to let you all know this, in my opinion, with the numerous projects that Pontchartrain Levee District has within jurisdiction, I see this project being, this is Louisiana. This is how we come together, this is how we work together, and this is how we thrive together, which is a huge message that Governor Jeff Landry spoke about in his inauguration speech itself. He talked all about the people of Louisiana, what we do, the things we do, whether it be in times of an event or the family issues that we all might have. We all come together. So just a wonderful project, and thanks to CPRA for being a phenomenal partner. Thanks to St. Charles Parish, St. John, for always working with Pontchartrain Levee District. It's always an honor. So thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you, Monica. So I just wanted to take a brief moment to update on the relocations effort that Colonel Jones had mentioned, as well as building off of the PLD for securing the easements. So what we're working with is many different pipeline companies, utility companies, and the parish themselves on securing efforts for the approval of design and the other rights needed to relocate them for the many construction reaches of the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project. So some of the companies that we're dealing with are Shell, EnLink, Energy Transfer, some of the largest oil and gas companies that work in Louisiana. And across the West Shore project, we're dealing with pipelines that range from 4 inches to 24 inches that carry things such as natural gas, propane, liquid ethylene, propylene, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, so some very highly volatile materials. We're working with both Energy Transmission, who crosses the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project 5 times with large towers, high voltage energy lines, as well as Energy Distribution, which has much lower voltage lines, but serves the communities that we're serving to protect. We're also working with, like I mentioned, the parish directly on the multiple sewer and water lines that need to be relocated for this. So this is just a slide that tries to briefly show the total number of relocations that are required for the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project. So every time a feature of the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project crosses one of these utilities, pipelines, or water lines, it's counted as an action that needs an individual relocation. So if you see this for the entire combined West Shore Lake Pontchartrain Moorepaw project, there are over 173 individual relocation actions that need to happen. So if you look at just the access roads alone that have already been accomplished, right, because we're working on construction of all these elements, there were 92 separate relocations that was needed. And if you consider that, that's basically 8 different access roads that have to cross a single pipeline corridor 8 separate times. So when you have that many pipelines built into one corridor that are crossed 8 times, that leads to a very large number. But again, those are accomplished. So the green here on this table shows the work that has been completed. So we're all but done on the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project, as the Colonel mentioned. So we have really 3 main efforts to go on West Shore for the pipelines relocations, and that's to allow one line to be directionally drilled lower at the 114 A Prescott area, as well as one line to be sleeved through the Peavine 103 area, and along with the last flood wall that will be currently under design by the Corps of Engineers in the 110A area. And I can show you a little bit of where this is. So if you look again, the green is the work that has been completed and done, and the little circles that are below the West Shore alignment itself, those represents the crossings along the access roads. But primarily we're working again for West Shore in the 114 area, the optional area in 103, that is where a lot of the utilities and the communication lines are remaining, and then one sleeving in the 102, and then on the western side, the 110A flood wall, which is still currently under design. If you look to the far west along the West Shore 112, 113 levee, that's where we still have a lot more work to do. But those are the reaches that are being under design by CPRA in conjunction with the Moorepaw Diversion Project. Really here, we're looking at two major pipeline corridors just south of Airline Highway that contain a total of 12 individual pipelines that will have to be impacted by both Maurepas and West Shore, so a diversion channel and the hurricane protection levee. We're still working with two railroads, KCS and CN, to accommodate their lines, and then one major communications corridor just south on River Road. That being said, I know we're going to follow this up with a presentation on the Maurepas project, but the goal of this effort, as you're going to hear from Brad following up, that the design of these individual efforts on Maurepas is going to be completed by 2025, which includes all of these relocations will be completed by 2025, allowing the Corps to complete their work on West Shore as well as state to start construction on the West Shore Maurepas project.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have the river reintroduction at the Maurepas School, Brad Miller, CPRA.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. So, and Andrew Maka, thanks for the good intro to how these two projects are integrated. So, the Maurepas project's been around for over 25 years. It's now part of the West Shore project. So I'm going to give kind of a brief intro of the Maurepas project, some of the unique partnerships and how we got to where we are now, and then a quick schedule update of where we're heading. So this project, as I said, started off over 25 years as a equipment project to reconnect the river to the dying Maurepas Swamp. The project area is about 45,000 acres. It's bounded by Blind River to the west, the lake to the north, Reserve Canal to the east, and Airline Highway to the south. And it's about 5.5 miles of channel connecting the river to the swamp. The needs, this is a unique project. We've never done a large-scale swamp restoration, but it's some of the same things we've always heard in coastal processes, a lack of flowing water. The swamp is just stagnant. It's permanently flooded. It's stagnant water. It's starving for sediment nutrients. It needs that reconnection to the river. As a result, there's been a lack of regeneration. There's been periodic saltwater intrusion events. So all this has led to the decline of the swamp over time. And this really goes back almost 200 years ago. What connected the river to the swamp was Bayou Manchac. Back in 1814, Andrew Jackson had the first blockade of Bayou Manchac to the Mississippi River. Shortly after that, the state actually made that permanent and cut off the swamp from the river. In the early 1900s, the entire swamp was clear cut. Of course, the Great Flood of 27 led to even further levees and disconnection from the swamp. And like I said, over the past couple centuries, it's just been suffering from hydrologic alteration, saltwater intrusion, and just overall lack of regeneration. This slide here tells a really, really good picture of what's been happening. Part of the problem is it's kind of hard to see a swamp dying because it takes hundreds of years. It's not like normal wetland loss when you drive to Grand Isle and you go over the Leeville Bridge and you can kind of say that used to be land 20 years ago. This really hasn't changed much to the naked eye. And what this shows is basically the dark green is healthy swamp. There's not much of it left. Light green is that middle picture is what we call a transitional forest. When it's just not as healthy. It's kind of opening up the canopy. It's still a swamp, but it's not healthy. Then eventually it converts to open canopy, wetland, marsh type habitat. And this takes a long time to happen. Actually, when you drive from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, if you look on the graphic, that's I-10 towards the bottom. There's actually a lot of dark green along that corridor. That's because it's a canal. There's some connectivity. So to the naked eye, you might not even realize that inner swamp is in really, really bad shape. But trust me, it is. And I think this slide just gives a good picture of overall what's going on. And we're basically going to try to turn a lot of that light green to dark green when we turn this thing on. Like I said, before West Shore came along, it was there's a 5.5 mile conveyance channel. The first 2 miles is brand new channel from the river to Airline Highway. North of Airline is Hope Canal. And that last 3 miles or so, we're gonna enhance Hope Canal. This is just a cross section of what it looks like. It's about 140 feet wide, about 8 feet deep, and 2 guide levees on either side. They're about 4 feet off the surface of the ground. So just remember the slide in a few minutes, and we'll show you how West Shore interacts with it. So part of this integration, like Monica said, back in 10 years ago, around 2014, the West Shore feasibility studies were getting wrapped up, and we actually Marpaw started off in Quipra, and it kind of reached the end in Quipra. We realized we'd gone through all the phase 1 design money. We realized that it was too big to be built in Quipra, so we wrapped it up. We had some state-only money and some NIFWIF money to foster the project along. And a lot of things happened in the next couple of years. In 2017, we got Restore Oil Spill money to finish the design on Marpaw, and we were ready to go. And then the next year, like Monica said, by the grace of God, West Shore got funded. So we kind of had to pause as a group and say, okay, now we got West Shore, now we got Marpaw, we're building both of these, let's figure this out. So at that time, the state actually asked the Corps, would you consider using Marpaw as the swamp mitigation needed for West Shore? And that led to a great project delivery team getting put together, and for a few years, some great people at CPRA and the Corps got down to the trenches, and we made a new operations and monitoring maintenance plan. We updated the modeling. We made new WVAs, a whole mitigation plan, and a great success story. In 2013, a record of decision was made to have Marpaw be the swamp mitigation for West Shore. What this did is it more or less married the projects. Marpaw, because it's being used mitigation, is part of the federal West Shore project. And I'm going to explain to that here in the next few slides how they're tied together and how we're going to make this all come to the finish line. So here's again the green is the West Shore project. The yellow only, that's basically the Hope Canal portion of the Marpaw project. That fuchsia line, that's about 2.5 miles between Airline and the river, is where Marpaw and West Shore are directly adjacent to each other. As Andrew mentioned, we're going to be finished the design of those features in about 12 to 16 months, and then constructing everything in the next couple of years. Just a little more detail on that. And then here is when we said we want to use Marpaw for mitigation, the Corps said, well, hey, you're benefiting 45,000 acres. We don't need that much. We need to mitigate this much. So basically, it's like a mitigation project inside of the whole project. And that's what the Corps is using for mitigation for West Shore. That area will be monitored a lot more strictly and heavily over the next 5 to 10 years to meet those success criteria is required for a mitigation project. And then there's still all the remainder of the 45,000 acres of benefits. So there's plenty of benefits for everyone to claim on this project. And about 5-6 slides ago, I remember I showed you a cross section. It was western guide levee, channel, eastern guide levee. Well, for those first 2.5 miles, this is looking north. This is a cross section. It's basically western guide levee, channel, and levee. I mean, these guys are adjacent to each other. Basically, the hurricane protection levee is the guide levee for Marpaw for those first couple miles. The state is finishing design and will build these features. So this is actually the first time the state will be building a federal flood protection feature. So there's a lot of firsts in this, a lot of great partnerships we've developed to make this happen. And this is basically what the first couple miles look like. There's on each side, on the east and west side, there's drainage ditches to make sure the local drainage is maintained and conveyed properly. Again, we've done a lot of work on drainage. For every time I come talk to locals, they always ask how is this going to affect local drainage. This is basically the area neighborhood of Mount Airy. North is to the right here. These are just flow lines. Everyone knows in South Louisiana, you drive along a road, there's a ditch. That ditch goes to a bigger ditch and it drains to a bigger ditch. In this case, Hope Canal is where all these ditches meet, but Hope Canal is going to be carrying the water to the swamp. So we've done a lot of complex modeling and replumbing to make sure that the drainage, especially in this area, is addressed and not impacted negatively. Here's just kind of a close-up. This is this would be the very western end of the West Shore project. So the black and white hash marks are the West Shore reaches we've all heard about. They start at here, 114 is the last reach, but in this case, the one closest to the river. And we've also identified the Marpaw reaches and the 6 reaches as well. So we have reaches 1 through 6 on Marpaw. They overlap with the West Shore reaches. The very exciting news, what we call Reach 6, that's the green here, it's about 3 miles. That's more or less just the dredging of Hope Canal. There's no levee component there, but it's over half the project. We opened bids about a month and a half ago. We awarded a contract, and Glenn, if you come into your office yet, I think yesterday, the memo to actually execute the contract is on your desk. Phil Wayne Construction is going to be doing this work, and we have a notice to proceed set for September 6th. So we're going to be doing some major dirt work on this project. It's the first component of Marpaw. The rest of the reaches all have a West Shore tie-in, so they're a little further behind in design. But as you can see here, basically reaches 5 through 2 all have a West Shore tie-in. Reach 1 is the headworks, but all those reaches, quarters 1, 2, and 3 of 2025 will be design will be finished. We'll be advertising for construction in 12 to 18 months from now for all those reaches, with all that construction wrapping up in 2027. Reach 1 says 2028. That's the headworks. So the hurricane protection components will be done in 2027. There's a little there's a Reach 6 phase 2, which is some outfall management features and all, and some culverts and I-10. But basically, by 2027, everything that needs to be done to have a complete West Shore system will be done, and the year after that, the whole entirety of the Marpaw project will be complete. And that's all I had. So I'd like to open up for any questions.
Yeah, President McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for the presentation. We really appreciate the work that CPRA did and kind of thinking creatively to benefit another project. And we want to thank the Corps for thinking outside the box and allowing that to happen. Me and Dwayne were talking, and we think this is a great project. We think that there's opportunity when it comes to the Upper Barataria project as well. So this is a conversation I've had with Glenn and others at CPRA about the Union AMA diversion, even though it's not an AMA, it's closer to Battery or Reserve. We think that there's a lot of marsh in the Upper Barataria Basin that surrounds Lake des Allemands that is dying and is not being nurtured the same way that the Marpaw Swamp has, because those former freshwater and sediment channels that were naturally occurring were cut off. And so we just ask that when we're looking at the Upper Barataria Basin and future mitigation on that project, that we consider doing the same thing with with Union AMA diversion, or what we call the des Allemands freshwater reintroduction project.
Yeah, I think you put together a great model where you put together a great model where you got a reintroduction working for mitigation for it. The whole Upper Barataria Basin, I know Barataria Terrebonne National Estuary Program has been looking at this basin area as it looks really good, but it's not as good as it used to be, right? You look at crawfish production and other things. What that does for me from a levee system point of view is that when we have storms, you showed the dark green going to the lighter green to the lighter green. Well, when you're in that lighter green mode, that water moves around freely in the basin. When a storm comes through, it starts blowing. So it's blowing water all around the basin. That dark green
that you had there, those heavy wooded marsh areas, swamp areas, that's what we want. And so I think we're seeing that we have some evidence from probably several entities showing the degradation of that whole area. And we want to kind of duplicate with this cool thing you did with this and West Shore for Upper Barrett area. And I know some conversations started, but we want to just keep pushing on that.
Right, and we appreciate those comments, and actually, last time I was in this room was the community conversations, and you're reflecting exactly the input we got from both the parish representatives in this area and the locals. So, our master plan folks and our leadership, we take those, those meetings and meetings like this input is valuable. We are pursuing those projects, so we hear you loud and clear.
So, Sweetgrass, just a quick comment. Appreciate that. I think it's a classic example of integrating hurricane protection and mitigation. I think the Homer Navigation Canal project is another example of integrating protection and environmental aspects. I was looking at looking at, you have it on the slide, but just for my understanding, on the potential flow through for the project.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's based on high water and the water going through. So we're looking at a maximum of 2,000 CFS?
That's correct.
Okay. And when it's down low river, I understand there's not going to be much to be able to go through, but is it just based upon shutting it off, or is it still going to continue to flow potentially? Or is
See, I was anticipating this question, so
I didn't tip you off first.
I got you. So this is our anticipated flow regime. So the black line on top is the 40% maximum flow of the river, like over the past 100 years. That's like the 40% flow. And then the red dotted line is how we anticipate to run this. It's really to mimic nature of those spring floods. That's the growing season. That's when the plants need the nutrients and fresh water the most. So we anticipate running it 2 big pulses. Pulse it from January to April wide open, or as much as we can flow it. Turn it off for about 5 weeks, turn it off for another 5 or 6 weeks, and then let it rest, let the trees grow, and do that. We do have, this isn't driven like Carnarvon Davis Pond. There's no 6-part line. This will be a really classic case of adaptive management. We're going to learn a lot from the research and the science. If there's a storm event, if there's a hurricane in September, we get a saltwater intrusion event, we can turn it on, we can flush the water out. So this isn't the gospel, but this is how we intend to run it. We're going to learn a lot the first 5 years or so, but it's meant to be run in the spring, which is the growing season, which when historically that connection to the river benefits swamps the most.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And again, I think it highlights the aspect of just because there's a diversion doesn't mean it's blowing and going constantly. You are going to adaptively manage it, and diversions can be manipulated to utilize best times of the river and not always flowing to where it's not causing.
Right, and then I also want to promote, we have this awesome fact sheet that the Restore folks helped us put together, and there's one page on it, the 3rd page, freshwater input to the basin. We get asked this all the time. All the inputs into the Pontchartrain Basin, the Pearl River, the Pantabow, Tickfall, every freshwater input into that basin, this diversion running wide open puts less than 5% of the freshwater input in the basin. It doesn't sound like much. It's going to benefit the swamp tremendously, but it's going to stay in the swamp. The water levels, once you get the Blind River and the lake, the impact on water levels is 0. So the water is being retained in the swamp. It's going to stay there, get all the nutrients and benefits. And as far as the basin is concerned, it's just a trickle. So I got about 50 of these fact sheets over by Marina. There's some good acts of the experts, some FAQs, impacts to the basin. So if you want to learn a lot more about the project, you can go here. This is on our webpage as well. I don't have to connect with a slide on here, but most folks know how to get to our website. So there's a lot of good resources out there. If you have any other questions, you can certainly follow up with me if you need to.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation of Mr. Miller, great presentation. And the next one, the ring levy system, Justin White with, Coastal Protection Restoration Authority, Justin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Can y'all hear me okay? Thank you for the opportunity this morning to brief you on the Food Title Protection Program. The town of Geneva Feet and surrounding communities of Crown Point, Barataria and Lafitte are located 15 miles south of downtown New Orleans and 30 miles north of the Gulf of Mexico. This is located in the southern end of Barataria Basin, surrounded by the Penn, Lake Salvador, and Bayou Rigolets, and bisected by Bayou Barataria. The Title Protection Program seeks to implement a series of flood reduction projects covering 8.5 square miles or 5,500 acres. Project needs. Because this community is isolated from the Hillstress West Bank and vicinity project just located 2 miles north, it's a critical area of need that's impacted by numerous storms, including Katrina, Gustav, Ike, and Hurricane Ida most recently. Natural ground elevations range from -1 to 4 feet. The Corps conducted a series of reconnaissance and feasibility studies from 1994 to 2004 and proposed several methods for implementing flood protection measures in the area. Here we can see some drone footage just after Hurricane Ida hit. This is the southern tip of the project area and the community of Lafitte, area that we consider Lower Lafitte. Modeling of the 2023 Louisiana Coastal Master Plan indicates that the area could experience an additional 3 to 4 feet of tidal surge from a Hurricane Ida-like event under future conditions. The 2004 feasibility study recommended constructing a series of ring levees, essentially, for 10 different boulders within the area to 7-foot elevation. That includes hard structures and levees. Current estimated amount for all of these projects is $458 million. The 2023 Coastal Master Plan also recommended a 16-foot tidal protection feature that is a ring levee that is a total of 150,000 feet and includes approximately 85,000 residences, 4 schools, hundreds of businesses, and various other infrastructure in the vicinity. The cost of that would be $1.5 billion. A couple of design overview features. This shows a hard structure, an eye wall to be built to 7.5 feet elevation to account for half-foot settlement. We have a levee feature that is designed to 8.5 feet for a foot of settlement. And then we also have various gate structures, primarily are swing gates and roller gates in the area. All of those are built to 7 to 7.5 feet on average. Update of where we are and where we're going. Currently, we have contracted 5 projects. Fisher School Basin was the first back in 2014. Project was completed in 2018 in 2 different phases for a total of $32.5 million. 3 miles of flood walls and levee were constructed, protecting 453 acres. Road store and title protection is currently under construction. Phase 1 is wrapping up construction, and Phase 2 began in May of this year. Total estimated contract value of just over $40 million. We'll build 5.1 miles of flood walls and levees and protect 610 acres. Lower Lafitte Title Protection began construction last year and will complete construction at the beginning of spring of next year for a total of $18.7 million and construct just over 3.5 miles of flood walls and levees and protect another 312 acres. So far, the state and the levee district have allocated over $86 million in state surplus, $42 million in Go Mesa, and $27 million in capital outlay funds to build these projects. A couple pictures of ongoing construction can be seen here, building eye walls, levee, and a couple of other features. We have 3 additional projects that are in advanced design for a total of $105 million. Will protect another almost 1,400 acres and add another 12.5 miles of flood protection features. Crown Point Title Protection Phase 1 is at 95% design. All of these projects are undergoing permitting approval, and Crown Point we estimate will be ready for construction in a couple of months, approximately 2 months after we get permit clearance. Goose Bayou Title Protection is another project that is undergoing a permit review. Currently, this one is waiting for 408 clearance, and it will be advertisement ready in the next couple of months as well. Goose Bayou, however, needs an additional $3.5 million to move forward and advertise the project. CPRA and LAILD had $15 million in capital outlay that is currently under priority 5 that we need converted to priority 1 in order to be able to advertise this project if we can't find additional funding. Valiant Basin is the 3rd project that is in advanced design and near ready to go to construction. This one is undergoing permit review as well, and it currently has no funding secured at this time. We've got another 5 projects in preliminary design. Crown Point Title Protection Phase 2. It's basically a back levee of the Crown Point Phase 1. There are ongoing discussions with National Park Service over the project footprint, and the area independent levee district is working with them to kind of work things out for that. Lower LA 45 is a evacuation route pointer here that connects lower Lafitte with upper project area. Lower Barataria Basin Title Protection is on the west bank of Bayou Barataria, and that is currently at 30% design. Upper LA 45 Title Protection is working with National Park Service on land swap to finalize alignment, and Jones Point Title Protection in the northwest portion of the project footprint is working with Jefferson Parish on the design of pumps to move forward with design. In total, these 5 projects are $198 million with current estimates that will protect another 1,700 acres of land and implement another 32 miles of flood protection features. I want to thank Representative Tim Turner, Mayor Tim Turner, Nicole Cooper with the Lafitte Area and Kimberly District for all their tenacious work on getting these projects moved forward. And CPRA project engineer Adam Wilson has been working on this for 10 years with us. So I just wanted to thank all of them. So I'll address any questions that you guys may have.
Any questions?
How many residents do you say in Lafitte?
Over 8,500.
8,500?
According to the master plan, that was the number that they targeted.
Well, so I had asked this question before when I first came in as the Barataria Basin representative. I was just looking at the projects in the master plan itself. So when you look at the Lafitte Green Levee in the published 2023 master plan, it says the estimated population is 200,000. And so I just didn't know if that was a typo or if there was some other metric in how it's protecting more of the West Bank of Jefferson Parish.
I don't know the answer to the population. The figure that I had was 8,500 homes or residences. So.
Yeah, I think that is correct on here. I think, yeah, 8,500 residences. I think on it, but it just says estimated current population 200,000. That was just a question I had.
Yeah, I'm not sure to be honest.
If we can find out.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's accurate.
Any other questions? With that, thank you very much, Mr. Wyatt, thank you very much. And the next one is the Louisiana Wetlands Education Center, Mayor Tim Carter. Town of Georgia. Mr. Carter.
If Jean Lafitte had 200,000 residents, I'm going to be sitting out there with Jean. But look, we do have close to 500,000, probably over 500,000 tourists that travel there, each year with the tours, with the swamp tours and charter fishing. Some of the best charter fishing in the country, really in the world. So look, it's an important place, and really, you brought up a good point, Parish President. It is, whether that's probably a typo, but when you look at this, I want you to look at it as how important this is geographically for New Orleans and for the second most populated parish, Jefferson Parish, right north of us. After Lafitte, we're pretty inland. We're not that far south. So after you lose Lafitte, it's on their doorsteps, and it certainly makes with the Army Corps did those levees a little bit more vulnerable, as we've seen in the past, without those barriers. We know what it was like to have Lafitte south of us for decades and decades and centuries, and we never flooded. And now we know what it's like to have all the Lafitte south of us going. So it's certainly, even though it's 8,000 to 10,000, after these levees will probably go up to 12,000 to 14,000, but it's certainly a much bigger impact for individuals than people think. Now, jumping into Louisiana Wetlands Educational Center, and I'm not sure. So my slides aren't as sophisticated, but I'll explain it to you. So I'm sure y'all hear this in your sleep that over the last 90 years, Louisiana has lost over 2,000 square miles of coast. Nobody knows that more than you all. And that's why you're serving here. And look, I certainly have such great appreciation. I know many of you on this board and the quality of people here living on the coast. I have great appreciation for that and the work that y'all do. So one of the biggest puzzle pieces that is sometimes overlooked, especially historically in Louisiana, right? We put money in places and actual construction, which is the main goal, right? But you also need education. You need education to build public awareness. You need education for the youth to start to join this fight earlier where it becomes something bigger. And we all know this is Louisiana's greatest fight by far in its history. And really, unless you're living on the coast and experiencing it every day, or you're working towards helping, you don't really, it doesn't affect you. You don't think about it. There's a lot of people in Louisiana around the country that don't think about it. So we want to capitalize on all the great work that CPRA does and that state of Louisiana does by educating the public and trying to get more resources, because we know that eventually money is going to become a problem sooner than later, and initiatives like trying to release the domestic caps where we can get more funds directly towards coast becomes even more important, right? To keep up with this coastal loss and eventually start to turn the tides on it and where we start building land. So educating the public is so huge. And Jean Lafitte is, it's 15, 20 minutes away from New Orleans, and I'll get to that in one of the slides. But I really want to dive into why this is the perfect place for it. So here is the Louisiana Wetlands Educational Center. It is a state-of-the-art multi-million-dollar museum that's 3,500 square feet. The same people that did the World War II museum exhibits are doing the exhibits in the Louisiana Wetlands Educational Center. This is not just the Jean Lafitte Wetlands Educational Center. This is the Louisiana Wetlands Educational Center that people from around the world will come there to learn about the battle, how we got here, where we currently are, and what can be done to win the battle, and what's going to happen if we don't. So, of course, we want to educate the public. We want to educate everyone on the unique way of life. One thing we don't account for in those numbers, the population numbers certainly, is that this is just important to Louisiana. The fishermen are smaller in numbers today, but their impact has been, for the state of Louisiana, has been so much greater. It still is greater than their numbers. People go to New Orleans, they want a gumbo with shrimp in it. They want a shrimp po' boy. And one of the main reasons people travel is the culinary experience. Without the seafood that's caught in places like Lafitte, you just don't have it. So we want to certainly show people that hey, you lose these areas. There's a difference between a working coast and a coast in Florida where there's condominiums and $1 million homes where they say, man, why do they choose to live? They have that risk. We want to educate people to say, hey, people who lived here for centuries, this is their way of life. You can't park your boat in Baton Rouge and catch some shrimp. It just can't happen. And you need people working in oil and gas and live on the coast. And then if we start doing windmills and things like that, they're going to need to do that too. So you need a working coast, and that's what separates us from places like Florida. It's critical to Louisiana. It's critical to the country, as we see the oil gas company. So the structure is, as you can see, it overlooks. It has windows that overlooks wetlands. It's on the very end of the levee. In front of it, we have another museum that teaches all the culture. And then you're going to go in there, and that's been finished. And then you're going to go through it, the Wetlands Educational Center, learn about it, see the actual wetlands. And what makes this so nice is as soon as you leave the wetlands and once you're finished learning about it in the building, you actually walk out into the longest boardwalk in the country over a wetland. So people are going to get a first-hand experience. Just recently, we had to close it for a few hours because an mama alligator put a nest right outside on the trail, and my workers were cutting the trees, and the mama alligator attacked them. So we had to get it relocated, and those babies. But you won't get an experience like that anywhere else. And as we've seen for COVID, a lot of people, we always travel to big cities, right? We all travel to places like New York, New Orleans. But we're seeing, especially people around my age, they want to go get really an enriched cultural experience, something that's authentic, something that's unique. They want to go to a restaurant that a grandma's cooking and eat a po' boy or a gumbo. That's just kind of where society is trending and travel. And being such a geographical advantage, and I'll go back to that. Let me see. We just have such a geographical advantage because we are only 25 minutes away from the GNL, from New Orleans. So we are essentially the closest place you're going to get a true bayou, swamp, wetlands experience. By far, the closest place out of anyone else to New Orleans, where so many people travel. And that's why you see our tourist numbers reach at times 850,000 people a year. So having this place here in a location where people get to learn about it, they get to walk it and see it, and then we also have capital outlay funding for a Manila Village replica, one of those old fishermen's platforms early on that kind of revolutionized the shrimping industry by drying shrimp and kind of sending it everywhere, right? It was very innovative at the time. And but it was lost because of our coastal wetlands deterioration. So people will be able to see a town that's fighting for existence, learn about the wetlands, see the wetlands, and then see a place that's not there because of it. And let them know this could be all of Southeast Louisiana unless you join the fight with us. So it's such a beautiful facility. When you walk in the lobby, we're going to have, we want to grab people's heartstrings, really. And this is something that we're doing personally. We're going to put an exhibit with people fighting throwing sandbags and fighting like hell to save their community, and just showing with the music, with the thunder, as you walk in, when people start to feel the emotions of what these people go through during these storm events because of coastal land loss. And then you go through the introduction area, and then the wetlands habitat hike. And throughout this thing, there's so many different little exhibits through the whole thing. I mean, you could spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in here, especially if you're a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, or 18-year-old, and really take in and learn every aspect about our coast. And the more you, especially living in Lafitte, but the more you travel the world, you realize how unique we are. The more you travel these wetlands, and I encourage you, don't just look at pictures. Don't just go really on a boat and just go look around, because you realize how diverse it is, and how important it is to have. We have something. Colorado has mountains, right? They're beautiful mountains. Well, Lafitte has wetlands. The state of Louisiana has wetlands, beautiful, breathtaking wetlands that look incredible with the sunsets and sunrises. But you can see the facility here. Take a moment to look. But and I'll just take you quickly through. Once you get through the educational side, there's things where you can actually build levees with sand and build dunes and build living shorelines with your hands, and to give something for kids to say, oh, this is how it works. And you're going to have water simulators where, if a kid's not sure what a levee is, and you can say this is a levee, and they'll start to see, oh man, that makes sense. Or how does a diversion work? How does a number of things work? Dredging. So we're going to have a bunch of things where they can get firsthand experience, not only the children and the youth, but the 850,000 people that travel to Jean Lafitte every single year. And then the conclusion area, one of my favorite aspects. The whole point of this is not just to educate, it's to get people on board. And I'm going to continue to be echo with that. It's to get people on board, because we all know in order to accomplish this, truly, we need as much funding as possible. We need federal participation. We need people in our youth demanding funds being sent there from our congressmen and from DC, because they help play a role in it, right? So the whole goal behind this is making sure that everyone comes in there, knows the importance, feels has strong emotion about it, and starts to pay attention, starts to care. Whether it's a Facebook video we share on Facebook that highlights this, we want people from around the country to see it and share it and say, hey, I've been there. I love this place. It deserves to be protected. And that goes for all of Southeast Louisiana. Again, it's connected to the longest boardwalk in the country over a swamp. That's not the mother alligator. That's alligator from the past, you wonder. It's a little smaller. Of course, it's beautiful back there. I know a few people in this room has gone to the seafood festival where we do a wine walk on the nature trail, and it is just breathtaking. It's one of the prettiest places in the state of Louisiana. It is so pretty that the national park called us up and said, look, we'll do this, we'll give you a land swap over this, but we want to include the town of Jean Lafitte Nature Trail into our program because it is the best trail. So construction, we're about 90% completed, and construction is scheduled to be finished in 2025. And really, I want to thank the chairman and all the board members, some of the personal friends and people I've hired high respect for partnering with us in these projects and really looking at Lafitte for its true value, its value to the culture, its value to the surrounding region, and it's just it's important because we're so far inland to say, hey, this is a line we're drawing in the sand, and we're not gonna lose anymore. And I think that's a good start spot, as John Lafitte. So thank y'all so much. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor Kerner. Any questions? Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. It is one of the most beautiful spots. I've been there, like it. Wanted to ask you the funding. I stepped out, I apologize, but is the funding there for, or you're still looking for funding to complete the project?
So we had funding, we all know the whole deal. Now we've got additional funding recently, where we have about $1 million towards completing it. It's about 90% finished, and we're waiting on the contractor to say, hey, how much is it going to be to remobilize to finish this thing? So as soon as we get that number, we'll know if we have enough, or if there's a shortfall, we need to go extra some more.
Thank you. Any other questions? Members? Okay, with that, thank you, Mayor Carter. Very good, great project, great facility. Thank you. And last but not least, the 2025 State of the Coast Conference, Kim Raya, Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Kim Breyer. Chairman Dove and board members, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about the State of the Coast Conference. So we're excited to be hosting this event once again with CPRA and with the Water Institute. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana hosts this in close partnership with these organizations every 2 years. I think this is familiar to many of you. I've seen many of you there, and I hope to see you there this year, 2025 actually. We will be coming together for the 8th event. We expect 1,200 people. We hope you're among them. And really, the idea here is to provide an interdisciplinary forum for exchange of ideas, for thinking, for networking, for reconnecting and thinking together about the future. And the theme for the event this time around is Our Changing Coast. What we hope that will do is inspire people to explore what we know about the changes we face, those that are inevitable, those that we can impact, and the choices that we're making as we plan our future. What can you expect at the State of the Coast Conference? We will, as in past years, enjoy keynote speakers during opening reception and lunches. We will have approximately 90 concurrent 90-minute sessions. As you've seen in the past, there'll be talks, many scientific talks, some policy-oriented, some legal, many scientific. There will be panel discussions, and as a new feature, we'll have what we're calling lightning sessions. So a bit of a quicker pace, probably more imagery, more maps, but a chance to engage more speakers in any given 90-minute session. We will have a sponsor reception and a poster reception. There'll be some leadership gatherings, and of course, in the exhibition hall, a great opportunity for networking at the receptions and the coffee breaks, and really whenever you choose to spend your time there to visit with colleagues. The conference, let's go to the next slide. The conference will focus on the topics that you're accustomed to seeing at this State of Coast event. There are 11 listed here, the familiar issues of science and project status and learnings. I want to highlight a few for you that we've added in recent events. One is around disaster impacts, mitigation, and recovery. Another around renewable energy, and a third around economic opportunities. So these are areas where we hope we'll see people leaning in to share their thoughts and their plans. The content on those topics is being produced right now. We are halfway through the call for proposal period. So the deadline for proposal submissions is September 23rd. Please, please, please think about what you want to hear about at this conference, what would benefit you in your work, what you've learned that you think others need to know, what discussions you'd like to see that would benefit our group dialogue, and get submissions in for September 23rd. There are two committees that help us plan this event. One is the program committee, which works to select content from the proposals that are submitted. For this event, that will be co-chaired by Alyssa Dousman of the Water Institute and Elizabeth Jarrell of CPRA. And we greatly appreciate the partnership of the agency and the Water Institute in helping us through that, which is a great deal of work. The second committee that helps us make this event possible is the sponsorship committee. And that's the group that helps us reach out for support to make this possible, keep the registration fee price reasonable. That will be co-chaired this time by Will Norman of SWC and Parker Kilgore of Jones Walker. On our website, you can find all these dates to help you plan your experience and your proposal development. You can find everything else you'd like to know also at stateofthecoast.org. What I want to show you lastly is that we'll be in a new space in the Convention Center. So this is Hall I. It's on the other end of the Convention Center from the place that you're accustomed to going for this event. We're going to help you find it, and we look forward to seeing you there. I'm happy to answer any questions. Also, urge you to check out the website where you'll find email addresses for questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ryan. And any questions, members? Any questions? Without that, thank you very much, and thank you for the informative presentation. And public comment, we it's the rule to limit for 2 minutes. The first one is Mr. Doug Daigle, with the hypoxia group, hypoxia working group. Mr. Day.
Thank you. I'm Doug Daigle, the coordinator of the Louisiana Hypoxia Working Group. We're a forum that meets monthly, housed at LSU, and our meetings are open to all interested participants. We are the only ongoing, consistent, and open public outreach effort on the hypoxia issue in Louisiana. And since the last time we met, I just want to give a very brief update. We've had the annual Gulf Hypoxia Mapping Cruise. Wanted to take the opportunity to thank Representative Zarang for sponsoring a resolution in the session this year in support of that cruise. And this is the one that's gone on for 35 years by LSU and LumCon. And they every year go west from the mouth of the river, and they have a series of transects that have been in place that entire time. And you can get more information about it on the website gulfhypoxia.net, and that has all the reports. This year, they have models they use to come up with an estimate, but then they go out and see what the actual size is going to be at the time they go out. So this year, they found that it was 17,360 square kilometers, and that means 6,703 square miles. And that actually is, as you know, larger than the target size we want to reach under the Gulf Hypoxia Action Plan. That's a 5,000 square kilometer or 1,950 square mile size. So that's an average size. They do the averages over 5 years because the river and the Gulf are always changing. And so that's the context to keep that in. And then this year, thanks to funding from the Gulf of Mexico Alliance, which came from the bipartisan infrastructure law, they were able to go east of the river. And they've done the cruise east of the river before, but they haven't been able to do it very often just because they haven't been funded. The Pontchartrain Conservancy has been doing measurements over there periodically. They know that hypoxia does occur east of the river. This year, they actually found a fairly large area east of the river, which was about 6,536 square kilometers or 1,634 square miles. And there is an influence of the river east of the river, east of the mouth of the river. They've known that because the volume of the water is such that you are going to have some influence there. The currents move along the Gulf from east to west, and so there are inputs from those other states, from that string of rivers, from Florida over to the west, but those are all pretty small, certainly compared to the Mississippi. So this is something to keep in mind. They have funding to do it again next year. Hopefully they can get regular funding to make it be an ongoing thing so we can get a better handle on what's happening east of the mouth of the river. But both east and west, the help that we're seeking is to carry out the commitments in the Hypoxia Action Plan to reduce the nutrient load in the Mississippi and the Atchafalaya. And if you do that, you'll reduce those inputs to the east side as well as the ongoing inputs to the west side. So I just wanted to provide everybody with a brief update on that. As I said, gulfhypoxia.net, along with the reporting by Mark Schlefstein and the advocate, can give you the information.
Thank you, Mr. Dave, and thank you for keeping us informed, and we've been talking a lot, and you'll please keep us informed on what's happening with the dead zones and hypoxia. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one is Captain Ryan Lambert, agenda diversion.
Thank you, Lord. No. 22 years ago, we opened Davis Pond Diversion at a cost of $120 million. Its purpose was to stop saltwater intrusion, help restoration, and help fisheries, commercial, recreational, all fisheries. It can run 10,650 cubic feet per second. But over 22 years, historically, we run at about 1,000. Right now, it's fluctuating between 500 and 1,000 CFS. And that is maintained to keep the water in Barataria Bay 60 miles away at 5 to 15 parts per thousand for special interest groups. Meanwhile, the commercial fishermen and the salmons, the guys that have been there for generations, are losing their livelihood because the saltwater is backed up so much that their catfish cans are completely crusted in barnacles. They have sail cats. They have hardhead cats. We have redfish all the way into Bashir, all the way into Lake Buff. Not unlike Morapar, our swamps are completely dying. The oak trees are already dead. Historic oaks, ancient oak trees on the ridges behind St. Charles and St. John and St. James Parish, all dead already. That's the canary in the coal mine. Now the swamps are stagnant, no crawfish, no waterfowl, no aquatic vegetation. Everything that we need is gone. The sac-a-lait, the bass, it's all deteriorating. Only because we won't run it. All we have to do is open the valve and stop it. It's the same fresh water and nutrients that would have helped all the land that we lost, 104 square miles that we lost in Hurricane Ida. All of it got rolled up because it was again, subsiding, dying. We have to do this for everyone, not special interest groups. Brown shrimp are null and void. Their numbers are going down every year. The docks lost money on brown shrimp this year. The fishermen lost money on brown shrimp, 80, 100, 50 cents a pound. They lost money. The only thing kept them alive is the whites that were in there with it. So if we keep operating our water system for special interest groups, instead of all of our taxpayers, we have failed. And right now we have failed for 22 years on Davis Pond, and now we're about to spend $3 billion to do the same thing. We have to regulate our waters for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Lambert. And the next one is, the final one is Mr. Charlie Speed. Corrosion with the levee sheet pile system, properly with the levee sheet pile system.
Is this working?
Mr. Speed.
Okay, thank you. My name is Charles Speed, or Charlie Speed. I represent what used to be NACE New Orleans. We know it as the Corrosion Society. We've been there since 1954. I'm on the executive board. Back in 2010, New Orleans section that we are now AMP, AMPP. You won't remember it. Association of Materials Protection and Performance. We were materials engineers, corrosion engineers, everything else. My background is 40, 50 years with Exxon Shell. I was subject matter expert for corrosion in materials. In 2010, I was president of the Corrosion Society. Somebody warned me that the Corps had not put any paint on the sheet pile going in the ground. The levee board and the Office of Coastal Restoration asked our organization to help them do that. We had meetings. There's so much to say in 2 minutes, it's difficult. So bottom line is, I've been trying to work with the levee boards, East especially, to get some peer reviews of what's going on. Now, the levee, 80% of the levee sheet pile is not corroded. The National Academy of Science, based on, going back a little bit, based on the Corps' study of this, they decided not to paint because they didn't have time. We pushed them to paint, and we actually had lobbyists in Washington, the last 20% is coated. Maybe my question is, are we coating the materials now? The National Academy of Science came out with a report last year, May 2023, that said they can't predict corrosion of bare steel. That's what the Corps based it on. Now, all I'm asking you to do is allow our organization to have an open peer review or get involved with the Corps at no cost, don't hire anybody. I have PhDs from Oxford on our board, and we have metallurgists from Dow. We have all kinds of people that have said, and our board is, I'm talking for the board, I asked them all, can I do this? 3 times in the last 14 years. So bottom line is help me, help you, because the guy that you hired 14 years ago, he left me with this after he died. He died, not after he died, before he died. It was a miracle. Not good. A little fun. I don't want to be negative, okay? But unfortunately, corrosion is a very negative thing. He said to me, can't remember his name even, but he was hired by you guys 14 years ago. He said, Charlie, go on the radio, go on television, tell the people the levees are at risk, you're going to corrode. Now, Bob Turner, the chief engineer, 15 years ago, if you knew him, he cried on his shoulder, Ricky Willett on his shoulder, I'll be back with you guys. I'll leave it like that. I know your time is up. Please, if you want some information on help on corrosion, the pumps corroded, I told 5 years ago, I told them the pumps would corrode. They couldn't tell me what materials. I didn't get involved enough, okay? And I'm willing to get involved now. So please help. Contact me. I have letters, information, I have a website and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input, Mr. Speed. And with that, I want to let the members know they do have some sandwiches here for the members of staff. And with that, a motion to adjourn. There's a second. This meeting is adjourned, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you all. Great group, and very informative. Thank you, and have a nice day.